Good day, good day. All right, people. We got a question from an email. My email's in the description below. If you got questions, feel free to send them in. Question. I see prices have risen over the past 5 years for older cards, like vintage cards. But do you think at some point the younger generation of MTG players will just abandon vintage cards because they're never exposed to them? Or will they always hold value because of the nostalgia of MTG? So essentially, we've got a question here, which is, will the vintage cards hold value forever? Or is there a chance that their value will drop off, that they will not do well? And this is quite interesting because they're the largest, MTG finance channel is called Alpha Investments, and it's focused, at least originally, around investing in old cards, like the cards from Alpha and Beta and reserve list staples and things like that. And so there's a lot of people and a lot of money that believe in the long-term value of graded and raw old vintage Magic cards. And they will always hold some kind of value. They are scarce, they are rare, but you can just hear the hesitancy in my voice because what I'm leading up to is this kind of hot take that I don't think is actually a hot take, which is that vintage is not doing hot. It's not doing well. The cards that are old are not being pursued and sought after. And what I want to draw your attention to is this really interesting contrast on TCG Player. So first off, we have an Alpha Land of War Elves that's near mint. Cheapest price you can get one for, $260. Here's one that's been graded 7.5 by Beckett. That card looks pretty good. There's, a little bit of scuffs and stuff. But for just a clean, less than $300, you could get yourself an Alpha Land of War Elves, one of the most iconic cards of all time. Pretty cool, pretty powerful. A couple thoughts on this real quick. First off is that this is a very playable card. It's played in a lot of decks. There's opportunities for collectors if they really want this card to buy it, collect it, and play with it. Or just put it on a shelf or whatever. We're not seeing... Yeah, it looks like in the past year, there's been a couple that have sold. Just 1, 2, 3. Yeah, according to TCG Player. I don't know how great this graph does at showing actual sales, but it looks like there's only been like 2 or 3. So we also know that this card's been reprinted into oblivion. There's a million different printings and copies of Land of War Elves out there, and so you do not need to buy the $300 version from Alpha. But you know what does exist is this one. The Land of War Elves Showcase Fractured Foil from Foundations. This card sells for $600 or $700. Oh no, this one's Japanese. So this one sells for $700. There's less listed on TCG Player than there are of Alpha Land of War Elves. So somehow this Fractured Foil feels rarer. And then when you look at the sales, in the past month, there's been 4 sales of this card, as opposed to Land of War Elves, where in the past month, there hasn't been a single sale of the Alpha Edition Land of War Elves. So there's been 4 of this Fractured Foil that goes for $700. And confirmed sales, yep, at $700. 4 sales in the past month, 0 of Alpha. What does this mean? Like, what are we supposed to make of this? And the people buying these Land of War Elves Showcase Fractured Foil, are they playing with it? Are they putting in a binder? What is going on? And so I just want to bring your attention to this example because I think it's indicative of the problem that vintage cards and vintage collectors are facing, which is this reality. Wizards of the Coast is financially incentivized to figure out how to get people to buy and open boxes. New boxes that are still in print so that they can make money from them. There's no financial incentive to help protect the collectability of old stuff. The one exception to that might be the reserved list. There is an incentive to keep goodwill amongst the older players or collectors And protecting the reserve list might be a way to do that. It might not. But besides that, Wizards of the Coast is just not incentivized to protect old collectability. If they can figure out a way to print a newer, fancier, shinier version of Llanowar Elves 2 years from now, they should do it. Because, well, I guess this isn't the best example because Foundations is supposed to be in print for quite a few years. But if Foundations wasn't in print and they come out with Foundations 2, they are incentivized to put in an even fancier, shinier, better version of Llanowar Elves for people to chase. Because that will get people to open up the new version of, Foundations 2 and forget about Foundations 1. If they can get you to chase the new shiny thing, they will get you to open new packs, and that gets the money to continue to be spent on the new stuff. Wizards doesn't get a cut from the alpha Llanowar Elves, the ones that sell. And you could say, oh, but Wizards doesn't get a cut of these showcase fractured foiled Foundations Llanowar Elves either, and that's true, except that as these are demanded, as people crave these, shiny collector booster box special cards, people are more likely to open them. The prices of those go up, and people buy and sell them. And you can say too, an important point is that the collector booster boxes are a kind of one and done print. And so this isn't like something that's being actively opened. Let's take a look at, I wonder what the specialty Llanowar Elves that isn't a fractured foil goes for that you could open inside of a play booster. Yeah, the showcase. Here, I'll share my screen again. So here's the showcase that I believe you can open inside of a play booster box, and it's selling for $230. Let me fact check myself live here. Open showcase Llanowar Elves in play booster. Anyways, so yeah, I'm not sure, inconclusive, but the point being, Wizards wants you to open new packs. They don't care about the old stuff. And so if they can figure out ways to make things shiny, new, anime art collectible, they're going to do that. And they are doing that. And they're doing it to great effect. We see this with every set that comes out. There's a spike in the demand for the collector boxes and the play boxes and the special printings of things. And then the prices go down over time. You notice the golden chocobos or the neon chocobos or the soul stones or whatever other shiny, the Solthara Void from Edge of Eternities, these showcase headliner cards, they're not going up in value over time. I'd love to get more data on this and be able to map this out and show you. But from what I've seen, just looking, onesie twosie at different examples, these showcase special edition cards are not going up in value over time. They're going down. And I believe that's because money is being switched from focusing on this, the new thing of yesterday to the new thing of today. And Wizards is doing such a great job at getting the new money, the people focused on the new thing of today and forgetting about the new thing of yesterday. And vintage is the newest thing of years ago, right? And so Wizards is financially incentivized to get us to forget about vintage, to get us to focus on the new stuff. I think that this Llanowar Elves thing is indicative of a reality, which is that newer players and players in general do not care about old cards. Now, the exception to this, and something important to bring up, are the old cards that are playable in Commander, right? So things like Revised Dual Lands, the Gaia's Cradles, even some of the pre-modern type cards, their value comes from players collecting them and playing them, in that they're scarce because they're on reserve lists or they haven't been printed since Alpha, Beta, Revised, or whatever. And so there is demand for some vintage cards, but that demand comes from their playability, much less their collectability. I don't think it looks good. The whole picture that's being painted that I'm describing is not a good picture for vintage. Now, I would actually love for somebody to come to me with kind of an alternate thesis and explained to me, oh, this is actually the reason why vintage could go up in the future. And it could go up. Sentiment could change. But I'm just not seeing evidence of that happening now. And I don't know what would have to change in the future for the demand for these vintage type staples to go up. So that's my answer. That was my answer to the question. Let me make sure I kind of covered everything. Yeah, is there a chance that the younger generation will abandon vintage cards? I think there kind of is. Besides the ones that are playable, there isn't an incentive for the younger generation to get into the old vintage cards. It's different art style for a different time for different people. And the new stuff that's coming out is shiny and pretty and special and just everything that tickles the funny bones of the new uprising generation of people. I do think these vintage cards will hold value. I think that there will always be some demand for these old cards. But as an investment piece, I'm not bullish on vintage Magic. I'm definitely bearish. That's me. Hey, if you made it this far in the video, please consider subscribing. I am trying to get to 500 subscribers as a new YouTuber. Like I said before, if you got questions, I've got an email below. Feel free to reach out about anything. Also, I have a store linked below. And also, if you're interested in selling Magic products, I have links to all the stuff that I buy on Amazon to sell Magic stuff. So anyways, thanks for watching. Have a great day.